Hello and good evening. Hello, YouTube. Hello, Facebook. A very good evening to you. Welcome to the library of Mythical Ireland. I'm Anthony Murphy. It's a great pleasure for us to return to the regular series of live Irish myths. Tonight, in episode number 138, we're going to talk about Imbolc. It is Imbolc today, so a very happy Imbolc to you all. Gomani Giariv, Macharja Golair, Fud on Down, Igach Cheer, Igach Shomra, Igach Lowerlin. Good evening, everyone. The blessings of God be with you. And of course, as we spoke about with Moncon McGann on Monday in our special conversation episode, that Giaglitch, God be with you, does not necessarily signify a single God, like the God of Christianity. It can signify whatever God or gods you believe in yourself. Anyway, it's great to see you all. We had a lovely time on Monday. Hope you enjoyed yourselves. A huge crowd lined up tonight already, which is very unusual given that this is not a regular episode. This is, a Wednesday instead of a Monday. Anyway, I have apologies from Erin Durrett, who says she cannot join us because she's doing something else. She's doing class, and Erin is going to watch on the catch-up. So say hello to Erin. She won't be joining us on the live chat this evening. Over on YouTube, oh my goodness me, so many. Daisy Peters is the first in the house, and Daisy is hoping that this time of Imbolc and the saint and goddess Brigid may bring us hope, determination, empathy in these difficult COVID-19 times. Endless blessings. Couldn't have said it better, Daisy. A fabulous, wonderful thoughts and sentiments there. Kieran Cotter says, yeah, I put mine out. It worked wonders for a strained calf muscle. What is that about? Putting what out? I missed that. It's about a Brigid's cross, is it? Daisy says she made hers with palm leaves. We don't have reeds in Rio. Triskel Health says Banachty o Louisville, Kentucky Law, Failure, Breach, Honna, Jeev. Thank you. And the same right back at you. Our Archaeoastronomy Database says Imbolc greetings, my friends. Joan McH is in the house. Hello, Joan. I rambled down today to Duncriffin's Mount, now the National Radio Museum in Howth. Is that the Hurdy-Gurdy Museum, is it? Accompanied not only by my sons, but by the most beautiful crow, the Morrigan. Lovely, sounds great. We fed it some bits and it followed us after for a while. I have a photo, but not sure if I should put them on the community page. Sure, why not? Please do. Seamus Maher is in Newry and is saying hello to everyone. Good evening, Seamus. Trinonoa. Deborah Williams says, hello, everyone. So good to be here, and I hope you're all doing well. It's cold in Hillsborough, Maryland, with beautiful snow on the ground. Weather forecasters are saying we're going to have cold next week, frost and snow. So who knows? Maybe we'll get winter before we get summer. It's supposed to be the start of spring, but anything goes. Joan wants to know if we know how to get FODAs on a laptop. It's usually Alt-GR and the vowel. Yes, somebody else. Cormac McCarthy is answering there. Thank you, Cormac. And good evening to you. John Main is saying Banachty na tua Golair. Greetings, everyone. Looking forward to another nice evening of enlightenment by a cozy fire. Brilliant, John. Lovely to see you this evening. The full Irish GK is in the house from Tala in South Dublin. Once a very important place in mythology, the burial place of the people of Partholon. Also, the location of a very important monastery in early Christian times. An interesting thought from Joan, who says, I've often wondered whether Eridanus is somehow related to the goddesses Eru and Danu. Eru Danu, yes. Shape is so similar to the tributary where the TDD arrived in their midst. Wow, fascinating thoughts there, Joan. You should write a book, because I love that intuitive type of thinking. That's brilliant. And I'm pointing to my head. I should be pointing to my heart. Sandrine Brady says, bonsoir. Anthony on Super 2, nice to be with you all again, and indeed to you. Very rainy and windy here in Orleans in France. It's also wet, and it just hasn't been nice here for the past couple of weeks, past week and a half anyway. It's been doing a lot of rain, and it's very dull most of the time. We saw a bit of sunshine this morning, but it didn't last long. Robin Rickman says, good evening from a cold and snowy Pennsylvania. Good evening to you, Robin. Hope it's not too cold for you. Ryan Murphy, I'm always glad to welcome more Murphys into the house. Glad to be here live for a while. Can you tell me the relation, if any, between Manannán Mac Lir and the children of Lir? Thanks from Inishowen. Let me get back to you on that one, Ryan. I definitely will. I just realized there's just so many people saying hello. This is incredible. One Light Gathering says hello. How exciting! I'm pleased to be here with you all. Happy Imbolc, Anthony, and all. Love from Alison. Hello, Alison. You're very welcome along. Not sure we've seen you before, but you are very welcome to the Mythical Ireland Library, and have a nice relaxing time for the next hour. Grab yourself a dram or a brew or whatever you're having yourself. Mine is a cup of chamomile tea in my I am your father mug. Calming chamomile. Very nice. And before you ask, no, there's nothing stronger in there. James Farrelly is with us. Hello, James. Good evening to you. Deborah Williams is there. Hello, Deborah. Sue Prenter's in the house. Hello, Sue. And every Monday's episode was great. I'm reading 32 words for field. Fascinating. Might try to learn Irish. I'm trying on Duolingo, and when I get the time to do it, I'm enjoying it. Erica Rivertree is in the house. Says blessed Imbolc, and blessings back to you, Erica. Welcome along. Emer Stassen is in the house. Hello, Emer. Welcome. Lovely to be here. She says always a pleasure to have you in the house, Emer. Karen Gogus is here. My good friend Karen, the 3D designer who brought Dronehenge back to life. Thank you, Karen. Mez Marion says, Anthony, Daisy and Deborah and John, Joan, AD, Full Irish Sandrine, love and light with us all always. Very appreciate the sentiments, Ms. Marion. Mandy McCurl is in the house. She says she's multitasking right now. Wonder what's going on there. Good evening, Mandy. Maggot AJ says, nice and clear in Devon. Evening all. Good evening to you. And who else? The Curious Celt says there's a circle of light around us all. Brilliant stuff. Okay, and over to Facebook, because I can see them flying up the screen. This is going to have to be quick. Oh, my goodness me. Juliana da Silva is in Brazil. Hello, Juliana. Welcome along. Tina Trana says, much love, many blessings for Imbolc. Thank you, Tina, and the same to you. Many happy returns. Deirdre McCarthy says, Conas Atá to Anthony Talmay Gohintuk. Joe Butler is in Colorado. Hello, Joe Rowan. Grove says good evening to all. Hello, Anne. Scott Doherty is in Oregon. Hello, Anne. Welcome along. Brady Tussey says greetings, Anthony. Well wishes to everyone. And the same right back to you. Natalia Lopez, how are you doing tonight? Though it's still daytime in Buenos Aires. Yeah, doing grand, to be honest. Not too bad. It's 7 minutes past 8 p.m. here in Ireland. Yvette Tillema says good evening, Anthony. And of course, it's afternoon for a lot of you guys. Hello, Anthony from Anne McCallum. Hello, Anthony the Mighty to Anton. Greetings and happy Imbolc to all. Not only is the sun shining today in southwestern Ontario, there's actually a little warmth to it, though not enough to melt the snow. Not yet. We've still got a bit of Sheila's brush going on there. No, because that's after St. Patrick's Day. We've still got the Colliach spreading her cloak on the land. I'm going to miss. They're flying up the screen and they're disappearing. Federica Guy disappeared on me there. Hello, Federica. Patricia McAteer is in Omeath. Hello, Steve Martinson in Wisconsin. Hello, Steve. Barbara Kling says hello, everyone. And there is snow in Vermont. Snow upon snow. Sounds nice. Romantic. Take a few pictures. It'll not last forever. Stephen O'Hara says happy Imbolc to everyone. Adina Sparks is saying hello to everyone. Amy Wallace Dolan. Gach Dinna, August Tussa Fain, August Ort Fain, Amy Morwina Blog says morning. Hello, Morwina, great to see you. Barbara Barney says hi, everyone. Falcha. Linda Moore is in the house, says Gia Reeve, Gia Rich, Linda, Gia's Muraglich. Natalia Lopez says, I've seen snow. I'd love some. We're in summer and it's just too hot for me. Well, lucky you. Alan Taff says, hello, missed you a few weeks, but I'm here and well, hope yous are well as well. Well, we are grand. Heather Guerin Rice is in the house. Imbolc blessings. We celebrated last night. Brilliant stuff. Margaret McKenna says hi to all the tour. Really enjoyed Monaghan the other evening. Fantastic interview. Wasn't he brilliant? So much fun. And I think there's another conversation there, an unscripted conversation, because he's just so fluent. Tom King says, good evening, Anthony, the mighty Tua, Imbolc, and working away. Blessings to all. Good stuff, Tom. Hope it is a productive evening for you. Candace Hamilton Bohonic says, so looking forward to this. Thank you. Well, it's my pleasure. Maeve Fiona Callahan says, Imbolc, greetings. Lovely Tua Mythlix. Falcha, Maeve, Nora Gaffney O'Connor is in the house. Kane Clea, Will Chiv, Anthony August, and Tua Galair. Fab swim this morning. Pardon me. A brilliant talk Monday. Thank you, Anthony. You played a blinder. I really enjoyed it. Do you know what really impressed me? He knew a lot about Mythical Ireland. Either he was swatting for the last week or so, or he told me before, wait till you hear this, he told me before we started that the director of DNA Culture and some of the production crew and himself watched a rerun of the live stream that we did after that evening, after the program had finished. Remember, I did a live stream, and he said that they just couldn't get over the response. They thought they were impressed. They were delighted. Alwyn Roy Badziak's in the house. Hi, Anthony and Tua. Happy Imbolc to everyone from Berkshire. Good evening, Alwyn. Welcome along. Thalia Brown is in the house from Glastonbury, a place associated with Brigid, where she is supposed to have stayed in a place called Beckery, from the Irish Bug era. Small Ireland. There you go. Daniel Fagan, Imbolc, greetings from Armagh. Wishing you all whole awesomeness. Is that Ardwacha or is that Awanwacha? Daniel, it's great to see you. Sandra Boothroyd says, good evening, Trinonowa. Marianne Uber says, hello all. Really enjoying my beautiful calendar, Anthony. Just turned to February. Yeah, and I still, in the past week, have had orders. I've reduced the price. There's still a few left, just in case any of you are interested. I know it's cheeky of me to do it, because it's like, it's not as if, sorry, I have to get to the computer screen. I can do that, can't I? It's not as if we've got all the time in the world, because we've an episode to get through and we haven't started yet. There's hundreds of people, don't exaggerate. Anyway, just in case anybody wants one, I will post the link in, because I still have, and they're reduced in price. Teresa McGuinness says, hello from Florida. Hello, Teresa. Hope it's nice and warm there. Deirdre McCarthy's in Central Square. Oh, that's great about the fodder on the laptop. Yes, Alt-G-R and the vowel you want is how you do it. Adina Spark says, hello, Tom. Hope you're well. And Laura Murphy's in the house. What a great honor and a pleasure it is. I don't bow to many people. Laura Murphy, there you are. No relation, but there's a lady that knows a thing or two about helping authors with books, especially this author. Bethany Cutler says, hello, lovely Tua. Happy to be together with you all today. Bethany, it's a great pleasure to see you. Barbara Cohn. Is it Cohn or Cown, Barbara? You're going to have to tell me, because I'm desperately embarrassed about the fact that we met in Ireland, and I don't know how to pronounce your surname. But anyway, you're in Alaska. It's still morning time in Alaska, isn't it? Good morning to you. Mariana Dunn is in the house from Alexandria in Virginia. Falcha. I wonder, are any good libraries in Alexandria? See what I did there? Never mind. Dawn Hilton says, happy, peaceful Imbolc. Love from Lancashire. Hello, Dawn. Roberto Ribuero Diaz says, hi, everyone. Stay well. Sláinte, Roberto. Marta says, good evening, Anthony and Tua. Glad to see you. Greetings from Spain. Always a great pleasure to see our Milesian cousins. That's a mythical allusion there. I mean our Spanish friends. Eva Anderson says, merry Imbolc to all of you. Hello, Eva. Marcia Downs is in the house. After seeing you in an interview with you about Imbolc and Brigid, I have looked forward to this. Well, I hope. I haven't got a strict plan for this. We'll go down a rabbit hole and see where it takes us. Sure, that's the way these things work out the best sometimes. Lily Hayes says, good evening from Westmeath, ERV. Conasata to Lily Tafalcha Road. Laura Puente says, hello, Sláinte. Welcome. Nigel Cook. Is it Cook or Cook? Gemma Fish. You might like this. Invite all your friends. Anne McCallum is in the house. Hello, Anne. I think I might have mentioned you already, did I? Zoom presentations have been delightful. Well, Teresa, the plan and the hope is to do those weekly. I have a list of people that I'm asking. Jim Fitzpatrick is our next guest. And Jim, all going well, will join us next Tuesday evening, the 9th of February. And I'm just going to copy in the link to register for that talk, both here and on YouTube. So don't forget to join us for that. Now, it's Tuesday because Jim wasn't available on Monday, so it's not the normal night. But anyway, I'm sure you'll all be able to join in, or as many of you as possible. Bethany Cutler says, "Oh, Anthony, have I got a mug for you?" That sounds interesting. Martin Smith says, "Please tell the tale." What tale? Sorry, did I miss something? Was that something I said already? Eamon O'Brien says, "Hi, Anthony, happy Imbolc. Oh, Balya Auclia." Hello, everyone. Auclia Cullen. Good evening, Eamon. Great to see you. Marianne on Dove Lynn, the Blackpool. Marianne Cheek Knapp says, "Good evening, Anthony. So excited for tonight's talk. Brilliant." Ashley Taylor is in Ohio. Hello, Ashley. Valerie Gallagher says, "Blessed Imbolc all." Caroline Bennis says, "Hi from Dublin." Hello to all of you. Serena Swift is saying, "Good afternoon." Hello, Serena. Amy Wallace Dolan, ERV Abu. Absolutely. Well, I'm Lou Abu, but second place maybe. Don't mention the fact that County Meath is between us. Joe Butler is talking to Tom. Rose Corraine says, "Hi all, happy Imbolc." Hi Rose, greetings to you. Robin Edgar is in the house. Here in Montreal, we count ourselves lucky if we have spring-like weather on St. Patrick's Day. As far as I'm concerned, spring does not really get started until late April or early May. At present, there's a foot or so of fresh snow on my balcony. We caught the edge of the big East Coast snowstorm yesterday, and more snow is on the way. Happy Imbolc, everyone. I'm always saying, no matter how much we complain about the weather in Ireland, we don't realise how warm our winters are. When you trace that line of latitude and you look towards Canada and places like Siberia, and you just realise, oh, we're in a good position here. Desiree Riley is in the house from sunny Louisiana. Hello, Desiree. Paula Snow Queen is waving. Hello. Elaine Dent Lingenfelter is in Texas, and she says, "What a nice surprise." Brilliant stuff. Oh, Daniel Chorowski says, "That's intriguing, the connection between Partholon and his people and Tala. Also, the early monastery you mentioned. Perhaps we could have part of Mythical Ireland on the topic of Tala." Yes, fabulous idea. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of material there that we could talk to. Valerie Gallagher says, "My dad used to say the back of the winter is broken on this day, but not done, but fading." Yes, indeed. Interesting. Nuala Doyle says, "Hi, Anthony, and hi all." Hello, Nuala. Vicky Wallace Southall is in the house, having technical issues trying to listen. Well, I hope you resolve your issues fairly soon, Vicky. And hello to Evan and Chile as well. Good evening to you all. Marion Thomas Ibarra says, "Mythical Ireland YouTube in the living room, Mythical Ireland Facebook in the backyard." Blessings, everyone. Brilliant. Love to you all from Vicky and all the way back at you. Carol Barrett says, "Happy Imbolc. Great to be live again. Loving your Zoom chats, Anthony. Amazing guests. And you're not too shabby either." Thanks, Carol. I'm glad. I'm no gay burn, but I'm working on it. Okay. Susan Scott is in Connecticut. Hello, Susan. Nice to see you. Get a move on, says Martin Smith. Yes, indeed. We're going to get round to the story at some stage tonight. Honestly, we are. Nick Eska Casterton is in the house. Hello, Nick. Great to see you. Rowan is talking about the library in Alexandria. Yes, love the Zoom, says Marion. "Are you doing an episode on St. Valentine's? Asking for a friend," says Paula Snow Queen. I didn't have any plan on it. I'm not sure if there's an Irish link there, but if we can find one, we will. Tarini Pendleton is in Laguna Beach in California, saying good afternoon. Hello to you. Christina Dees. Jim Fitzpatrick, big shocked face and hearts. Yes, Jim is coming on next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Irish time. Anyone else? Donna Jean Porter. Hello, Donna. Monica Regley is in Switzerland. Hello, Monica. Very good evening to you. Who else? Erica Bow. Hello, Erica. Folche. Jeremy Prosperi is in Louisiana, where he says it's chilly here also. Seems to be a thing, except for if you're in the southern hemisphere. Our Australian viewers are complaining about it being too hot. Joe Mack is saying hello from Nova Scotia. 107 watching, says Vicky. Make it 108 if Evan is there. Patricia Loughran McTague is enjoying the Zoom conversations and is so happy to have found this lovely group. We're very happy to have you here. That's what makes it. May Orton is in New Mexico in the USA. Hello, May. Anyone else? I'm flying down through them now. Garrod O'Branagon is in the house. Valentine's relics are in Dublin. There you go. There's the key. Thank you, Garrod. There you go. If you point me to some literature, we'll do an episode on Valentine's. Now, what are we on? We're on 20 minutes. Oh, dear. So tonight, let's get sort of kicking on. But just to say that I did say earlier that I don't have any specific script or plan. And the plan is to sort of go down that Imbolc-sized rabbit hole and see where it leads. Probably the first thing that we need to do is just to alert you to the fact that although St. Brigid's Day and Imbolc are kind of celebrated at the same time, there's a specific date on both of them, and those two dates. Hi, by the way, says Garrow. It's good to see you. Those two dates don't usually fall together, basically. So we generally celebrate St. Brigid's Day on the 1st of February, and Imbolc is, I think, a much older celebration, going back into the mists of pre-Christian times, and who knows, even, I believe, prehistoric times. And there's very good reason for that we'll get to in our discussion, hopefully. Imbolc marks the halfway point in days between the winter solstice and the spring equinox. Thank you, Paula Snow Queen, for the link. Paula wants us to talk about Valentine. That's okay. So it helps, I suppose, and we can't be certain about this because there's no sort of documentation. There's no historical documentation that tells us how things worked in pre-Christian times. The earliest manuscripts in terms of what we have in Ireland are, I think around 6th, 7th century, and really the first time you begin to see myth in Irish written down is actually the 11th century, although that's the time it was written, but the material is believed to be older. So we have manuscripts like Laur na Hira, the Book of the Dun Cow, in Middle Irish, but the Irish is based upon an older version of Irish, what the scholars call Old Irish. However, we can make a lot of speculation, and if you've sat in enough Neolithic cairns and seen enough alignments, I've been in a few myself, then you begin to see something else. A picture emerges of a possibility that there was a much more complex calendar in prehistory than we perhaps give the ancient stone builders, the megalith builders, credit for. So, for instance, we all know, I hope, about Sheed and Broga or Newgrange, She Mach an Og, and the great monuments of the Boyne Valley. And Newgrange has an alignment on winter solstice, that time of the year when the sun is at its lowest ebb and is rising and setting, the furthest south along the horizon, and we have the shortest days and the longest nights. And then we have other structures that are aligned on summer solstice. And then we have structures in between, apparently aligned on the equinox, for instance, at Cairn T, or the Hag's Cairn at Slieve na Collia at Lough Crew. But you see, it's more complex than that, because if you want to have a sort of a properly working complex calendar to base your agricultural and your life activities around, you need to factor in other things, the moon, for instance, and the working maybe of the workings of some of the planets. We can further subdivide the year. So the year we have up to now subdivided into solstices at summer and winter, and equinoxes halfway between each. The vernal equinox, which is next month in March, the spring equinox, when the sun's position is basically on the celestial equator. If you think of that as a projection of the Earth's equator, as if the ring that is the Earth's equator was projected outwards onto the dome of the sky. And so you have the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn which is where the sun moves north and south along its path during the year. But when it's midway, it's crossing the celestial equator, and that is the modern astronomical definition of equinox. But then you have halfway between solstices and equinoxes, so we further divide the year into 8 segments instead of 4. Now, a question arises as to why this would have been done. One of the reasons is that it creates a more workable, convenient set of periods that equate to approximately, now this is only an approximation, but a very rough way of thinking about it is that the distance in time, sorry, I just need to move this out of the way, the distance in time between each festival of the year, if there are 8 festivals, is just over 6 weeks, right? So if you divide 365, which is the number of days in the year, by 8, you get 45, and divide that by 7 days, and you get 6.5. So approximately every 6 weeks, 6.5 weeks, we move from phase to phase, as it were. Think of the calendar as, think of it a little bit as the moon. Let's call winter solstice the dark moon, or the new moon, the invisible moon. And let's call summer solstice the full moon. Well, you've got all these phases in between. You've the crescent phase, you've got the half moon phase, which astronomers call the first quarter or the last quarter, because you're actually only seeing a quarter of the total face of the moon if you include the backside. And then you've what we call gibbous, the 3/4 moon, and then you have the full moon. So what we're at now is the first crescent. We're at the first crescent. If winter solstice was the dark moon, we're at first crescent. Spring equinox will be the half moon. Bealtaine, the beginning of summer, will be the 3/4 moon, or the gibbous moon, and summer solstice will be the full moon. So just think of it like that. It's a more convenient way of dividing up the year. How old is this division of the year? Scholars, some of them, will say there's no evidence. Certain, it's difficult because, as I said, we only get written documentation as a result of Christian activity in the scriptoria of the monasteries of Ireland in the early medieval period. We don't have anything that says distinctly, this calendar system goes all the way back to XY date. The one area where you get specifics, by the way, is in the annals, such as the Annals of Ireland, or otherwise known as the Annals of the Four Masters, the Annals of Ulster, the Annals of Chernock, etc., etc., etc. You get the picture. The Annals of the Four Masters give specific dates for events going right back into prehistory, such as the arrival of the Milesians in 1700 BC on the eve of Bealtaine, which is, I think, fascinating. A lot of stuff is said to have happened in the mythology at Samhain. Samhain is a very, very important date, and I think we've discussed that in previous episodes. The beginning of winter, that time of the year when, I know this is a cliche, but it's a nice one, and I think it's got a ring of truth to it, and that at Samhain, the veil between this world and the other world is said to be at its thinnest. And so if you've got a structure, so for instance, let's take, for example, Cairn L at Cairn Bawn, the White Cairns at Lough Crew, the westernmost of the hills. And if you've seen, I've done episodes about Lough Crew, I've written about it. If you've seen my Mythical Ireland book, you'll know how glorious the alignment of Cairn L is. It's not that at Samhain that the sun enters into the passage at sunrise, at dawn, and shines into the end of the chamber like it does at Newgrange on midwinter. What happens is more dramatic. It's actually that the sunlight moves over to a slender pillar on the right-hand side of the chamber, and with reflected light illuminates the largest of the decorated stones in the chamber of Cairn L. As it's doing that, the sun is rising over a destroyed cairn at Carrickbrack. I just always thought that was something very profound, that the sun was rising over another cairn while doing this light show in Cairn L. Now, immediately after, a couple of days after the sun has been striking this pillar, the sun can no longer shine into the chamber of Cairn L. And that's how the ancient astronomers would have known that winter was beginning. Now, the sun retreats down the horizon to winter solstice, but then it stops and it turns back again. And what happens is Previously, in the run up to Samhain, the sun entered and tried to strike the left-hand side of the chamber, and then during October, the end of the chamber, and then eventually this slender pillar. It happens in reverse with the spring at Imbolc. So at this time of year, this morning, if someone was lucky enough, if we had remote cameras inside Kernel, or if we were lucky enough to be inside, and you can't go in now with COVID and everything else, we would have seen, it was cloudy this morning, who knows what the weather was like in Loughcrew, but you would see this dramatic light show when the sun is rising on the mornings of Imbolc. It's shining back into the chamber of Kernel, lighting this slender limestone pillar, and its light being cast dramatically onto this stone in the chamber. And I think that would have been a very exciting time if you were a Neolithic astronomer / druid / farmer, because you're able to announce that, yes, spring is coming. The year has definitely turned. We saw it at solstice. We saw how the sun stood still, but now we're seeing strong signs of its return. We cannot say for definite if Samhain and Imbolc are indeed Neolithic in date. All we can say is that there are several mounds. Another one is a Cairn U at Sliabh na Caille, adjacent to Cairn T, which is the same alignment approximately. It is aligned so that sunrise at Samhain and Imbolc shines in there. I also have pictures of that, and I've written about it, and I've shared those. And another one is Dóin an Níl, the oldest of the monuments at the Hill of Tara, the small mound there with a passage that is lit up, a short passage that is lit up at dawn, at Samhain and at Imbolc. So clearly a very important time of the year. The wonderful thing about any alignment that doesn't focus on the solstices, if it's between them, it gets lit up twice a year. It gets illuminated twice a year. So the wonderful thing about any alignment towards Samhain, beginning of winter, is that after solstice and the sun is coming back and has turned, it will illuminate the passage or the chamber again a second time. Or if you consider the solstice to be the turn of the year, maybe this is the first one. The first one of the year is when the sun is growing. Now, Imbolc, I have to speak a little bit about the meaning of it. When did Imbolc become Imbolc? Well, I can say to you that it certainly was mentioned in Sanas Cormac's glossary. Cormac's glossary, I mentioned this in the conversation with Moncon McGann on Monday, because I told him that he had produced what might be considered to be a modern Sanas Cormac, because Sanas Cormac, the reason it's very important is it gives us words that we, some of which, words, not just words, by the way, names of characters and places that may otherwise have faded into obscurity, never to be seen again. Now, I'm trying to find it, and I hope I can find it, but I'm pretty sure Imbolc is the problem with Sanas Cormac is, although it is approximately laid out like a dictionary, they don't actually, the entries don't always follow. There's one for Laura Murphy that's in Sanas Cormac, and that's Imbas Forosni, the knowledge that enlightens. I'm just trying to find it. I know it's in here. It's the time of year when the ewe's milk is coming in for the lambs, and you just start. I can't find it. Can you believe it? I can't find it. It's the time of year when, in addition to the natural signs that spring is appearing and winter is just gradually starting to fade, one of the most important things about the cross-quarter days is the fact that there's a very, very visceral, there's a very observable and noticeable change in the it's not there's a notable change in the length of the day. It's that there's a noticeable change in the rate at which the day is either lengthening or shortening. So let me just recap on something I said at the Brigid talk last night, at the Zoom talk to the St. Bridget's Day celebrations in Vancouver. And that is that, think about it like this. The solstices, solstice means standing still sun. In Irish, Grianstad, which literally means stopped sun. That is the time of the year when obviously the sun's movement on the horizon from day to day is at its slowest. In fact, it is stopped. The equinoxes, however, mark the time of the year when the sun's rising and setting positions are moving at their fastest. So you'll notice, if you happen to live in a house in a plain or an open area where you can have a very good view of the horizon and there aren't loads of houses and buildings in the way, skyscrapers, you will see, say next month in March, if you just watch every morning when the sun comes up, watch how much it's changing day by day. So the equinoxes are the fast points, and the solstices are the slow or not moving at all points. Between those, the cross-quarter days actually provide us with another bracketing, as it were. I like to use that word, bracketing. So think of Samhain, the beginning of winter, and Imbolc today as bracketing the slowdown of the sun at winter. Okay, at Samhain, the sun begins to slow down as it heads towards solstice, and then it stops and it comes back again. And then at Imbolc, the sun starts to pick up speed again. From Imbolc through to Bealtaine in early May, that's when the sun's it's starting to move quicker, and in the middle of that, at this vernal equinox, it's moving its quickest. So think of the cross-quarter dates as brackets for the slow or fast movement of the sun. From Bealtaine through to Lunasa, the harvest, or the beginning of the harvest festival in August, they bracket another slowdown period, which is the summer solstice in the middle. From Lunasa, the beginning of the harvest festival, to Samhain, the beginning of winter or the end of the harvest, they bracket, another quick moving period, which is the autumn equinox. So I hope I've explained that. Just a very quick recap. So you've got winter solstice, sun stopped. Sun starts moving slowly. Get to Imbolc today, sun starts moving more quickly. And from here through the spring equinox, when the sun is moving at its quickest, until Bealtaine, we see a much more dramatic change in the length of the day. At Bealtaine, the sun slows down again, and it stops at the midsummer solstice in June. At that point in Ireland, for instance, at this latitude, the sun doesn't set until 10 p.m. approximately at night time. And it doesn't get fully dark at all, actually. There's a twilight throughout the night for about 3 weeks either side of summer solstice. And then at Lunasa, at the beginning of the harvest, the sun starts moving quicker again, and you get a rapid contraction in the day through September, through the autumn equinox, until Samhain, and then we're starting to slow down into winter. At that stage, it's not that it's not noticeable, but at that stage, the days are so short, that we're like, oh, sure, look, we're here now for a while, and this is why Imbolc is so lovely. It's because we've been in these dark days since late October, effectively. And of course, don't forget that in modern times, the clocks in this part of the world, the clocks go back at the end of October. So the day gets shorter by it. Well, of course, the sun rises an hour earlier in the morning, but in the evening time, suddenly where it was getting dark at maybe 6:30, suddenly it's now getting dark at 5:30. And of course, that contracts again as you go down to winter solstice. It is said that the difference in the length of the day between winter solstice and Imbolc is about an hour, but I think it's actually more than that. It's probably about an hour and a quarter, an hour and a half, maybe. So we've already gained daylight, and you can see that, what we call in Ireland, that stretch in the evenings. Imbolc, I still didn't get the meaning of it, and I'm very disappointed. It may be that a Google search, Imbolc Samas Cormac. Sorry about this. Oimlech. That's why, because I was looking, because I had the wrong spelling. Anthony. Schoolboy error on my part. I shall be detained after class to write it out 100 times. Still can't find. Yes. No, I still. I know it's in there. This is the crazy thing. Imbolc, and that is spelled Ofada Imelc. Imbolc. Which is obviously Old Irish spelling of it. I can't find it. I can find Enoch, an assembly. Contention of horses. Anyway, Imbolc, in the belly, yes. But there's another meaning for it as well, isn't there? It's got something to do with, isn't it something to do with the ewe's milk as well? I'm not sure. One thinks in the belly, one thinks of pregnancy and fertility, and the idea that, you know, you're going to see the lambs shortly, you're going to see grass growth shortly. I learned some technical information in my day job, which is very interesting, that the grass in Ireland, I don't know if it's the same everywhere, but I presume it is similar. Grass does not grow once the ground temperature is below 6 degrees Celsius. And so one of the reasons that farmers take cattle off the land in late autumn and early winter and don't leave them grazing throughout, or part of the reason they don't do that in Ireland is because they would poach the ground, because the ground gets all muddy and mucky and soft. But they take the cattle off the ground because you need to give the grass a chance to recover for its spring growth. You know, first milk, says Christine. Yeah, Imbolc equals ewe's milk, or yo's milk, if you want to. Morgan Daimler posted about the meanings a couple of days ago. I'm finding a deficiency in my knowledge right now. My brain is scrambled, but that's because I've had a few late nights. Last night's event for the Canadians was started at 3 p.m. Vancouver time, which was 11 p.m. Irish time, and I didn't get to bed till about 1 o'clock. I didn't get to sleep till about 2 o'clock, so forgive me. Now, I do have stuff in relation to the customs, but they would be associated with Brigid's Day. I'm not sure that there's much, if any, information that would tell us that the association of Brigid with Imbolc goes back before Christianity. So certainly all the customs that you see associated with Brigid's Day, of course, are associated with Brigid. We cannot say for sure whether some of those have pre-Christian origins, but we think so. Now, I'm not going to recap on all that because I think I covered a lot of that. We did actually do an episode about Brigid in Live Irish Myths. I'm not sure if that was episode 40 something. It was probably called Brigid, Saint and Goddess. It has been said that Brigid, you know, we know very little about the I hate this word, pagan. We know very little about the pre-Christian Brigid. She does not get a huge amount of coverage, as it were, in the newspapers of the day. I mean, in the manuscripts. She's a daughter of the Dagda, which would ostensibly make her very important. And some scholars have equated her with, for instance, the Cailleach, with, for instance, Bowen, and with, for instance, who else? Brigid, with Danu or Anu, as in a sort of a mother of the deities. Anyway, let me just reach for our favorite source, James McKillop, Oxford Dictionary of Celtic Mythology, and just read a little bit about Imbolc. Now, when I'm doing that, I have to tell you that I have reached out to James. He calls himself Jim, and I asked him if he would appear as a guest on Live Irish Myths in Conversation. So let's keep the fingers crossed that he will come on and talk to us about his wonderful work. I gather that he is advanced in years now. I'm not sure, and I don't want to sort of put a figure on it, but I would say that Jim is around the 80 mark at this stage. He lives in New York State. But as you know, we've recommended this book time after time after time. Wouldn't it be wonderful if he would come on and talk to us about it? And I think he may have a little reticence around that because it's so long since he produced this wonderful book, and probably because he's getting on a bit, as it were. So I'm going to try and gently encourage him to come on the conversation episodes. Well, just to have one conversation with us. Imbolc, also Oimelc, spelt 3 different ways, typical Irish. Old Irish name for a seasonal feast of pre-Christian origin, fixed at 1st of February on the Gregorian calendar. Now, see, this is what I'm always saying, is just to be careful about. I know that some of you have your beliefs and your celebrations, and I don't intend to preach or to interfere with your faith and your beliefs whatsoever. It's none of my business. As you all know, I'm agnostic, verging on pagan. I see a lot of people who would celebrate Samhain, for instance, on the 1st of November or the evening before, Icha Hauna. I would see a lot of people who celebrate Bealtaine on the 1st of May. And likewise, there are people who celebrate Imbolc on the 1st of February. If I were more inclined, to incorporate these customs into my spiritual beliefs and practices, I personally, and this is just me, I would celebrate Imbolc on the date that is the halfway point in days between the winter solstice and the vernal equinox. And that happens to fall today, the 3rd of February. Now, when you think about it, that's a great excuse to celebrate Brigid's Day on the 1st and Imbolc on the 3rd. two celebrations instead of combining them into one. It's a bit like when if somebody has their birthday on St. Stephen's Day or Christmas Eve, you have their birthday or worse still on the same day. At least if they're separated by a few days, you can have a celebration. Maybe your birthday's on the winter solstice, and then you can have a celebration of Christmas Day 4 days later. Anyway, I apologize. I'm rambling. I know I am. One of the 4 major Celtic calendar feasts known in Old Irish as Samhain, Bealtaine, and Lunasa. The natural phenomenon at the root of Imbolc is thought to be the visibly perceptive lengthening of daylight. See, this is the most important thing, is that if you ever get sort of into a discussion with a scholar who's saying, look, there's no evidence, you just say, hang on a second, it's natural, buddy. It's just a matter of just looking at what's happening out in the world. Suddenly the days are getting longer, noticeably. That has to be something that throughout the eras, the pre-electric eras, could you imagine what it must have been like in ancient Ireland, in prehistoric Ireland, to have to endure the winter? I wouldn't say suffer. I'm sure there were high points as well, because at least you're more likely to have, if you were a farmer, you were more likely to have food in the winter following the harvest than in those 6 weeks pre-harvest when the food supplies would be running low in the summertime. But imagine what it must have been like. I mean, these things would have been very perceptible. And one of the reasons Manachán writes so beautifully and eloquently about it in his work, 32 Words for Field, and in everything that he does, is this sort of feeling of melancholy, this lament for lost aspects of the language. And something that I think we've definitely lost. It's obvious, isn't it? Is that we've lost our intrinsic connection, not just to the sky and to the cosmos, but to nature. because it's all out there. We've got these concrete and wooden and plasterwork walls, and we've got ceilings. We've got all these bright lights. It just makes the perception of the natural cycles more difficult. And the only ones who kind of really know it very well are the likes of the farmers and those who, for instance, the anglers, those who are close to nature in modern times. Us town and city dwellers are all the poorer for our loss of attachment to those cycles. And therefore, the anticipation of spring, the alternate name for the day, Imbolc, is thought to denote the time of ewes coming into milk, also a signal of spring. From earliest times, Imbolc was associated with Brigid, the fire goddess. So, what James McKillop seems to be saying here is that there is evidence that, in fact, it was associated with Brigid before Christianity, and after Christianization with St. Brigid of Kildare, eventually becoming known as St. Brigid's Day. The saint, it should be pointed out, was often seen as the patroness of sheep, the pastoral economy, and fertility in general. So, Rowan, I'm just reading from James McKillop's Dictionary of Celtic Mythology, the most recommended book in the Mythical Ireland Live Myths series. Unlike the other calendar feasts, celebrations acknowledging Imbolc's pagan origins have not persisted in popular tradition. The Scottish Gaelic name for the day, Lá Fhéil Bhríde, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, by the way, and the Irish Lá Il Bhríde, or Brigid, retain the link to St. Brigid, but the common Irish and Manx names acknowledge the further Christianization of Imbolc as Candlemas Day and associates it with the Blessed Virgin Mary. Irish Lá Fhéile Mura na Gunneal, and Manx, I obviously butcher this because I don't know Manx, Lá Il Moire ni Gainle. There are also echoes of Imbolc as an anticipation of spring in the American secular celebration, Groundhog Day. By the way, just in case you're joining us and you don't know what day of the year it is, today is the 34th of January. That was a joke. A poor joke, it might be said, but it was a joke all the same. One more scoot through Sanas Cormac. Of course, it won't say much anyway, in any case. Imbolc. Imbolc. No, I can't find it. It's not under O, which is really strange. It's possibly treated as a footnote under something, and that's probably why I'm missing it. And I'm very glad to say that you can get this is John O'Donovan's translation of Sanas Cormac. You can get modern day facsimile reprints of a lot of these old works quite cheaply, as I did, and a great addition to your library, especially considering that the original in hardback would probably cost you 50 or 60 or 70 or 80 quid. Yes, now let's talk about a couple of the customs that we definitely wouldn't have covered in our discussion of Brigid when we were talking about her. Pardon me for a moment. Let's talk about Candlemas for a second. I did see somebody prompted a mention of it. With the gradual, sorry, I'm reading from Kevin Danaher's wonderful The Year in Ireland, Irish Calendar Customs. Again, another wonderful, wonderful book, and a very important addition to the library here. With the gradual restoration of Catholic ceremonial on the relaxation of the penal laws, the custom of blessing candles in the churches on Candlemas, 2nd of February, again became familiar. Sorry, folks, just remind me, Is this also the time of year, St. Blaise's Day, isn't it? The blessing of the throats. Is that is that the second? Is that Candlemas, or is that a separate? Helen Guinan is in that, Your Majesty. I would say you're late, but I don't have those privileges, and I want to keep my head on my shoulders. Again, became familiar. As well as donating candles for church use, people brought others to be blessed for use in the home on such occasions as station masses and the administration of sacraments to the sick. Just if anybody has any information about, is it St. Blaise? St. Blaise's Day is the blessing of the throats, is it? Yes, St. Blaise, the Armenian monk, 2nd of February. Thanks, Rose. Yes. A popular legend to explain why Candlemas fell immediately after St. Brigid's Day. Because of Our Lady's diffidence in bringing the infant Jesus to the crowded temple, St. Brigid promised to help her by distracting the attention of the multitude. This she did by appearing with a headdress bearing many lighted candles, and Mary, in gratitude, decreed that St. Brigid's festival should be celebrated on the day before that of the purification of the candles. There you go. Weather forecasts were made on Candlemas. A fine day was believed to be a token of wintry weather during the rest of February. Thus, in the Northern Standard, that's a newspaper in County Monaghan, on the 6th of February 1943, a correspondent from Ballybay, County Monaghan, gave the following note. Although many farmers were pleased to see Tuesday morning last so bright and clear in order to get out with the plough teams held up by the snow and rainfall of the previous days, yet those who take heed of weather lore didn't like to have such bright sunshine on Candlemas Day. I'm pretty sure yesterday in Ireland was a dull and wet day. I'm not sure what that means because it doesn't. Kevin Danaher doesn't say. As well as, this is in relation to St. Brigid, so we might as well include some of this material. As well as weather forecasting, some marriage divination was also practiced on St. Brigid's Day. J.B. Arthur's in Ulster Folklife, 1957, recalls that. In addition to the crosses, imitation ladders and spinning wheels are also woven from the rushes, 2 or 3 rushes each being used for the purpose. That night, the young men and the young women sleep with those under their pillow, the men having the spinning wheels and the women the ladders. One's future partner would subsequently first be seen climbing a ladder or spinning at a wheel. We learn further that these little figures were exchanged as love tokens. The young man made the ladder, the girl the spinning wheel. They exchanged tokens and put them under their pillows. Then, if they dreamed of each other, they were sure to marry. And in the Ulster Journal of Archaeology, 1945, St. Brigid's love for birds and their affection for her are well known. And in County Armagh, one will occasionally hear linnets described as Brigid's birds. If on Brigid's Day the lark should sing, it is accepted as an omen of a good spring. And I will say the last time that I was at Newgrange, I heard the skylark and also the wren. Beautiful, wonderful to hear these things. On the other morning, I forgot to mention, I'm not sure if it was Sunday morning. So I live in Drogheda, which is a town. I heard, not far outside the window, I heard a curlew. We don't often hear those in the town. You hear them quite a lot out in the estuary of the Boyne, a few miles out to the east. And you hear them at Brunibonia. They seem to have a sort of a presence there all year round. You very rarely hear them in town. It's a lovely thing to wake up to on Sunday morning. The dandelion is sometimes spoken of as Brigid's flower. That may be due to the fact that it is almost the first wildflower to come into bloom following her festival. Apart from its cheerful aspect, it is of some medicinal value and forms the basis of a very potent but most palatable wine. Any of our friends, I know some of you are into, some of you are very fond of making, unusual brews. Anybody ever make a dandelion wine? It is known that the saint entertained in a regal way and was famous for the home-brewed ales that she bestowed upon her visitors without distinction as to rank or condition. The oyster catcher, known in Connacht as Giola Brigid, is Brigid's page, is conspicuous on the shore at this time. Another tradition tells that hoarfrost, gathered from the grass on the morning of St. Brigid's Day, is an infallible cure for headache. Did anybody put out there? I think, did I see one or two pictures on the Mythical Ireland community page on Facebook? Did anybody put out their bit of cloth or cloak to collect the dew on St. Brigid's Day? The saint's love of animals was remembered by giving some special tasty food to the cows and horses. This was also done at Christmas. Many people brought water from a well dedicated to St. Brigid and sprinkled it on the house and its occupants, the farm buildings, livestock, and fields, invoking the blessing of the saint. Isn't that lovely? I should also point out, you've possibly seen them already on the shelf in the background there. There's the traditional four-armed cross, and then you may or may not have seen the three-armed cross. Some of you may have seen on the Mythical Ireland community, Alison from Boyne Valley Wolves. And Alison is the lady who shares her wonderful pictures. She keeps the sheep out there by the bank of the Boyne opposite Newgrange, and the photographs she shares are so beautiful. Well, Alison was making these the other day, and so we did a bit of a swap. I gave Alison a gift of a Mythical Ireland calendar, in return for which she gave me the three-armed cross. I want to show you it for a second. So the three-armed cross is one of the variants of the Brigid's cross that I hadn't actually seen up close before. I'd generally seen the four-armed, traditional cross. Apparently this was confined, in terms of the making of it at St. Brigid's Day, was confined to the north of Ireland, to Ulster, to the counties of, for instance, Donegal and Tyrone and County Derry, etc. And it was almost exclusively found in the northern part of the country. Another thing that's very interesting about it is that it is not generally wasn't kept in the house, but was rather reserved for the byre or the cattle shed, or the stable. I presume as a bestowing of the blessings of Brigid upon the animals. Of course, that would have been very important. Isn't it beautiful, though? I mean, isn't it fabulous? It's the simplest thing, and everybody can make them. And I have clumsy hands, and even I can make these. Well, I haven't made the three-armed one, but I've certainly made the four-armed ones. And in fact, if I can find it very briefly, you will see that there are all sorts of renditions of the Brigid's cross, all sorts of variants. And I am going to just show you a couple of pictures from. This is a paper that was written a good long time ago now, probably several decades ago. Just let me find the beginning of it. This is called St. Brigid's Crosses by John C. O'Sullivan. It's a paper that he wrote for Folk Life. So you get, for instance, single diamond crosses. And that's from Kilcommon in County Mayo, and that is also from Kilcommon in County Mayo. So I'm going to show you a few variations. I just wonder about these crosses, whether they aren't signifying not the, the way. So this is just a thought, and I hope it's not too random. But if you were to consider, and forgive the slightly flimsy nature of the craft work here, if you were to consider the cross as denoting the solstices and the equinoxes, for instance, right? But St. Brigid's cross is generally turned at a 45-degree angle, a bit like a swastika, I wonder if that denotes the cross-quarter festivals, Imbolc and Bealtaine and Lunasa and Samhain, so that if you overlay one onto the other, you've got the division of the year into 8. I don't know. It's just purely speculative on my part. Pardon me while I hopefully get it to sit properly. But then you get these much more ornate Brigid's crosses. Multiple diamond crosses, for instance, and this one, the provenance of this one is actually unknown, so they don't know what part of the country that's from. Look at that. It's very complex and ornate altogether. And then, again, multiple diamond crosses, provenance unknown, in the shape of a cross. Let me just show you a few more. Again, some single diamond crosses or variations on them. Look at that. Fabulous stuff. So this one is from Donegal. This one's from County Galway. Sorry, I hope you can see those. I'm just trying to figure out which one is from the letters. C is from Kerry. That looks more like a crucifix, an ordinary crucifix than anything. D is from that is a rectangle, and I'm not sure if there are arms coming out here that the reproduction hasn't shown too well. That's from Tydavnet in Monaghan. This one is from Ballinrobe in County Mayo, and the last one is from Donna in County Monaghan. So again, what you have is the diamond shape superimposed on the cross, and this actually, some of these might give us a better illustration of what I was just saying. If you consider the ordinary cross, the usual depiction of the cross as solstices crossed by equinoxes, but then you consider the diamond as the angles of the cross quarter dates. So then you have basically 8. You have the division of the year into 8. Let's call it, winter solstice, Imbolc, spring equinox, Bealtaine, summer solstice, Lunasa, autumn equinox, Samhain, And then even more complex variations from different parts of the country. Look at that. Fabulous stuff. Janet wants to know where I'm finding those. This is from a paper written, and it seems to have been in a journal called Folklife, and it was written by John C. O'Sullivan. That's where I'm getting them from. And now we see the more commonplace swastika versions. There in that top image there. So they're the ones we're much more used to seeing, especially these lower ones. And then we've got wheel crosses and 3-arm variants. The 3-arm variants, where are they from? They're almost certainly from the north. Yes, Glencolumkill in County Donegal, and again Glencolumkill. So both of the 3-armed variations in this case are from Glencolumkill in Donegal in the far northwest of Ireland. But then we even have the wheels. Fascinating stuff. I wonder, again, if you've got the wheel, you're putting the calendar into what we might call the wheel of the year. And then a more ornate version of the diamond cross is the interlaced cross. I'm just going to show you a closer version of that. So there's a little bit more skill and craftsmanship involved in creating one of those. Just to give you an example, that is from Killilla in County Clare. That's from County Clare. And then rush straws, which appear to be simple crucifixes from different parts of the country again. Really, really interesting stuff. And again, more. So the swastika type, next to the diamond types of crosses in order of popularity, is the 4-armed type, to which the term swastika has been applied by writers in the past, and probably not so much these days, as you know, because of the unfortunate linking of the swastika with a certain ideology. And the swastika predated all of that bloody nonsense, Nowadays, the swastika type is the most widely known to people in Ireland due to the fact that the National Television Service has used a cross of this type as its emblem, or RTE. Not sure if RTE still has the Brigid's cross in its emblem, does it? I know it certainly did for a long time. The type may be subdivided into small crosses and large crosses. The former are usually made of straw and the latter of rushes. But in both cases, there are some exceptions to this practice. I'm also told, or I may have read it in this paper, I may have read it elsewhere, that if you're making Brigid's crosses, you don't cut the rushes, you pull them. You don't actually cut them with a scythe or a knife or anything. Now, I wanted to just very briefly mention the 3-arm cross. Yeah, 3-arm type. Crosses of this type have 3 arms which project from a roughly equilateral triangle at the center. They are made of straw or rushes, the method of construction being basically the same as that of the swastika crosses. A single straw or rush may be used in the construction, or only double stalks may be used. The occurrence of these crosses is confined to parts of Ulster, counties Donegal, Antrim, Down, Armagh, and Tyrone. They were not used in the dwelling house, and in fact appear to have been mainly used in the byre. So there you go. Yeah, it's fascinating to see. So even this is why I love the academic work. You know, as I said to Moncon on Monday, I always feel that I'm standing on the shoulders of giants in discussing this. It's thanks to the diligent work of scholars in times past that we know a lot of this stuff. So, for instance, the distribution of three-armed types and wheel types. If you look here, I'm just going to show the triangles represent the three-armed versions, and as you can see, all the triangles are up in the north part of Ireland. And the circles representing the wheel type crosses are confined to the southern part of the country. So a very distinct division there. And remember if you were watching the Moncon episode as well, how we talked about the dialects. So there are three distinct dialects of Irish: the Ulster dialect, the Connacht dialect, and the Munster dialect. It's a funny thing that there isn't a dialect for Leinster. That's probably because of the influence of the Normans and the Pale and all of that. Anyway, I'm not sure. This is part of material that I have. I was gifted this wonderful, wonderful assembly of material about Brigid a number of years ago by a friend. Sorry, here we go. Here's the citation for those of you looking for it. And that is called St. Brigid's Crosses by John C. O'Sullivan. And it's reprinted from Folk Life, a Journal of Ethnological Studies, Volume 11, 1973. Just in case you're fascinated by the crosses and you want more, that is a scholarly academic article about them where you'll find out much more. So maybe that's one that you can track down online. I'm not sure if you're signed up to JSTOR, you know, that website where you can get a lot of the academic papers. Well, they've in the lockdown have a special. You can, for free, without paying any money, you can access, I think it's 100 papers. Is it 100 a month or is it just 100 in total? Now, you can't download them without paying for them, but you can view them on the screen, which is the next best thing. So maybe, I'm not sure whether that paper is on JSTOR, but maybe you might want to check it out. In terms of Brigid herself and her life, the two major sources for information about Brigid are the two lives of St. Brigid, what is called the Vita Prima Sanctae Brigittae, which is the primary source, and then Cogitosus's life of St. Brigid. Really, what they consist of are not necessarily a chronology, but accounts of a series of spectacular miracles performed by the saint. I just wanted to mention one more thing, if I can. And that is, there's a wonderful sort of contemporary work, which is scholarly again, but is absolutely fascinating. If I can find it, I'm sure I can find it. It's just a matter of whether I can find it quickly or not. Is by the wonderful Mary Condren. And I think Mary would make a wonderful guest on our conversation series. I'm just trying to find it now, so bear with me for a moment. Yes, here we go. This is a really, really wonderful contemporary work on Brigid, and I will read just a couple of very brief passages from it. Is everybody still okay? Are you all right? Nobody wants to go asleep or anything like that. Mary Condren, and the paper is called Brigid, Matron of Poetry, Healing, Smithwork and Mercy, Female Divinity in a European Wisdom Tradition. And that's from the Journal of the European Society of Women in Theological Research, Volume 18, 2010. So there you go. Now I'm going to read a couple of passages because I believe you will really, really enjoy these. Well, I certainly did. And this is Dolores Whelan, my good friend from County Louth, also gave a talk last night at the Vancouver Brigid's Day event. And Dolores was talking about wisdom and the wisdom of Brigid. And it brought to mind the idea that we're talking here about much more than, you know, devout Christian beliefs and rituals and practice. We're talking about something that's much, much deeper, in fact, and probably much older than Christianity too. Many European wisdom traditions were preserved in rural and agricultural communities and speak of a stream of wisdom rooted in consciousness and perhaps even in European cellular memory. Not sure if I read this on our Brigid episode. If we did, I'm repeating it, but I'm sure you'll enjoy it all the same. Sometimes these are attached to local festivals, goddesses, or even saints. How do we recuperate and translate them for today, especially on behalf of those in danger of being severely damaged by the pressures of contemporary living in cultures dominated by wars and fueled by greed? The focus on the figure of Brigid in this article is a modest contribution. It is important to state, however, that for those of us who engage with Brigid's traditions, the figure of Brigid is not an object of worship, but a metaphor through which we can engage imaginatively and creatively with a female tradition of ethics and divinity. Brigid offers a new basis on which we can imagine a renewed form of European unity based not on certainty, but on poetry, not on splitting, but on healing, not on warfare, but on psychic mojo or smithcraft. The word Brigid carries enormous potential, and it is important to spell out what the word means. The word derives from the Indo-European word brig and means the exalted or high one. It is cognate with the Vedic word brihati that relates to the word briganti, Latinized as Brigantia. Brigantia is said to have been the goddess of the Brigante tribe, and Cartimandua was the queen of this tribe in the 1st century CE. In an ancient Irish dictionary, Cormac's glossary, Anthony couldn't find it, but Mary found it. We'll read from Mary. Brigid was described as patron of healing, smithwork, and poetry. Quote, as poetess, daughter of the Dagda, a goddess whom Fili, the poets, used to worship. As her intercession was very great and very splendid, so they call her Goddess of Poets. She had 2 sisters of the same name, Brigid, the woman of healing, and Brigid, the woman of smithcraft, daughter of the Dagda, from whom names among all the Irish goddess used to be called Brigid. And that quote is from the Sources for the Early History of Ireland, James F. Kenny. Encountering Brigid, one engages in a complex mixture of mythology, lives of Brigid, a 5th century Irish saint, and centuries-old folk practices. I argued elsewhere, this is Mary Condren's words, that the figure of Brigid incorporated many of the old indigenous local female deities, or divinities, should I say, and collected them into a single entity called Brigid. The word Brigid is, therefore, a title rather than the name of only one person. In this article, Brigid is being used both as a noun and a verb. As a noun, the word refers to a composite figure, poet, lawmaker, feminist, hospitaller, and Christian saint. As a verb, the word refers to the Nyart, the life force and creativity gathered under her cultural cloak at the time of her festival, February the 1st, 13th, or even March the 1st. It varies from place to place. Brigid is therefore synonymous with the European wisdom tradition, and the language of wisdom, rather than deity, can embrace those disaffected from the main religious traditions. And just to skip on, because I don't want to read it all. According to early Irish law, Brí Ambui was a female author of wisdom and prudence among the men of Éireann. From her is named Brethra Brí, i.e. certain incantations by which the poet's mind was supposed to be rendered prophetic. Brigid was matroness of poets who used her tinkling bell to call the poets to assembly. In ancient Ireland, poets were not simply wordsmiths. Ireland was ruled by a triad of kings, religious figures, including abbots and bishops, and poets. By the way, Cormac MacCullanan, the author of Sanas Cormac's glossary, was, I think, 10th century, 900s, a 10th century king who was also a bishop, based at Cashel, as in the Rock of Cashel. Poets played a role in inaugurating and legitimating kings, and could overthrow them should they not live up to their duties. Poets, therefore, called the society to integrity and challenged unjust rule. In Brigid's matronage of poetry, we find the first clues of a distinct approach to knowledge and wisdom. In a largely oral culture, the training for poets consisted of their spending many hours in complete darkness, memorizing the old sagas and wisdom lore of Ireland. The Celtic understanding was that all things are born in darkness. The structure of the year reflected this awareness. The Celtic year begins on November the 1st with Samhain, presided over by the Cailleach, the hag or the wise woman. The harvest festivals are over, the new year begins, and the womb of the earth is plunged into darkness, awaiting the coming of the light on the winter solstice, December 21st. Facing into darkness, including the darkness within themselves, poets were uniquely positioned to call a community to integrity, to defend the weak, to pronounce judgments on false decisions, and to puncture the pretentiousness of rulers and despots. In that sense, they had much in common with some of the great prophets of the Hebrew Bible. Provided they could carry out their duties, poets achieved very high status in Irish society and had an honour price comparable to that of kings. Three things were required of them. They ordained it thus: to grant to every Olive forever, Olive being a chief poet, in payment for his honour and outrage, provided that he could perform Imbas Forestny and Digital Docholiv Chen and Tenyum Lido, an equal honour price with the kings of Tara, provided that he could perform these things. And they translate as the knowledge which illuminates, that's Imbas Forestny, Digital Dichanave, extempore incantation, and Tenim Lija, illumination of song. Fascinating stuff. So again, I'm not sure if that is something that is available on JSTOR or online, but I will give you the citation for that because it is wonderful. It is really, really fabulous. And that is Mary Condren, Condren, and the paper is called Brigid, Brigit, Brigid, Matron of Poetry, Healing, Smithwork, and Mercy, Female Divinity in a European Wisdom Tradition. That's from the Journal of the European Society of Women in Theological Research, number 18, 2010. And I would love to have Mary on to our conversation series. So her name is on my list, and I will reach out to her and ask her at some point. Mary, if you're watching or any of your friends are watching, we'd love to have you on as a guest because that is phenomenal work, really fabulous. If there's any questions, I'll take a question or two. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to answer them, but sure, I'll take them anyway. I hope you've enjoyed our discussion of Brigid's Day and Imbolc. Just as usual, to always say thank you very much to all the Mythical Ireland patrons who support the work of Mythical Ireland. And if you fancy becoming a patron for reward, the address is patreon.com/Mythical Ireland, patreon.com/Mythical Ireland. If, however, you're not comfortable with that and you want to make a simple once-off donation, you can do so at paypal.me/Mythical Ireland. paypal.me/Mythical Ireland. So there you go. That's the business end of things done with, I think. Don't forget, please, if I am waiting, if there are questions, I'll keep an eye out. Don't forget, please, to join us next Tuesday, the 9th of February at 9 p.m. Irish time for our discussion with the wonderful artist Jim Fitzpatrick. And I will paste a link in to where you can register for that Zoom conversation as a link both on YouTube and on Facebook. That's a shortened link, but it will take you to the proper link. So you have to register, but it's a free event. You don't have to pay to participate. Just to be aware, there's a couple of people who are confused who obviously don't use Zoom and they're confused about it. When you register, you should get an email immediately from Zoom with the link where you click on to join the talk when the time comes. There's a couple of people who are saying they didn't get registration details. It's an automated email that comes back. So Jim is excited, I can tell you. I have been speaking to him and he is excited about joining us. So Wendy wants to know who would have made these crosses maybe 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago. Ordinary folk is the answer, Wendy. Ordinary devout folk who were observing practices and rituals that had been passed down to them from their families for generations and generations. I should mention, there's one thing that I wanted to mention. I knew I had forgotten it. In relation to the St. Brigid's Cross, in some parts of the country, the tradition was that the old cross was put up into the roof space. You know, old houses were just like one big room subdivided maybe into 2 or 3 rooms. They were very simple affairs. But in some parts of the country, the tradition was to put the crosses into the roof space. But in other parts of the country, just before St. Brigid's Day, at the end of the year, the cross had to be burned. It was a ritual that you burned the cross. Depending on where you were in Ireland, if you went into a house, it was possible to ascertain how long the family had lived in that house by simply looking up at the roof space and counting the Brigid's crosses. Because if there were 20 crosses up there, that indicates that the family had been there for 20 years. But of course, that was rendered useless in other parts where people burned the cross. Just looking for questions if there are any. Amber Lynn wants to know, could the curbstones at Newgrange be for keeping track of celestial events? Amber, you need to read Island of the Setting Sun in Search of Ireland's Ancient Astronomers. It just so happens that I am the co-author, and it was reprinted, having been out of print last year. It was reprinted last year, having been out of print for a long time. And that's where you will get your answer. Now, let's have a look. Oh, thank you, James. James Farley says, just signed up. Piece of cake. Yes, indeed. So if you click on the link, all you need to do is provide your name, your email address, and where you live, what country you live in, and registration is free. Paula Snow Queen says, yeah, my dad burnt ours too. It's a funny thing, isn't it, how it varies from place to place. And Bernadette McCaffrey says, we burned ours in Tyrone/Donegal. There you go. Brilliant. I can't message as much on Zoom, says Desiree, because it makes my pups want to join in and see what's going on. I love when you said on Monday, Desiree, you said to Moncon, you're part of the tour now. You got to come back. I think he really felt at home. I really enjoyed. And Eddie Lenihan was, there's 2 wonderful, wonderful people. My hubby made them in school when he was young, says Roberta Duffy. Yeah, we all did. In fact, it is still sort of carried on even to this day. Mavanway wants to know, is it Tuesday or Monday? It's Tuesday, and that's just simply because Jim wasn't available on Monday. It's Tuesday, the 9th of February. It's next Tuesday night. Paula says, I love Jim's stuff. He knows some of my friends, although I've never met him. Can't wait till Monday. Brilliant. Zoomophobic. Eamon O'Brien, thank you for your comment, Eamon. Very glad you enjoyed the conversation tonight. Can you do it without PayPal too? Yes, I can, Monica. Send me a message or an email at mythicalireland@gmail.com and we'll sort something out. Absolutely. Linda says, thanks a million. No problem. I'm glad you all enjoyed yourselves. I enjoyed myself, as always. Why did they burn the crosses, says Natalia. I'm not sure. you have to understand that a lot of these things in Ireland were based on superstition. There was a lot of superstition. So the superstition may have been that it was bad luck to hold on to last year's cross. It's the likely reason, though I'm not entirely sure that it was the reason. You had 4 little books last time on. I lost the link to them. Could you put them in again, please? What's that about, Monica? 4 books. What was that? I'm not sure. How do we sign up? Says Maureen. Is this for the for the Zoom talk with Jim? I just shared the link as a comment, Maureen. If you scroll up through the comments, you'll see that I pasted in the link a moment ago. I'll paste it in again, just for pig iron, as they say in Ireland. Just for pig iron. We'll paste it in again. It's a bit.ly. It's a short link, bit.ly/mi-Jim Fitz, and that takes you to the Zoom registration link. Hopefully that will do it. Any questions on YouTube that I might have missed? Mark Rhodes Taylor says, I took part in an online ritual where we honoured Brigid. It was my first online ritual ever. It worked beautifully. Well, people were very happy. Yes, indeed. It's one thing I can say for sure. Anything I've ever done in association with Brigid always brings happiness. Office Care 36, the Woodsies. I didn't see you there, Peter. Good evening to you. Nate Brydenbaugh says, greetings, Anthony the two. I haven't been a Patreon supporter, and that bothered me. So I went ahead and fixed that. Thanks, Nate. Appreciate that an awful lot. Thank you indeed. Robin Rickman says, as I read Eddie's books, I can hear him reading it to me after seeing him on Zoom. Hasn't he got a wonderfully musical voice? He's brilliant. I think Eddie would come back for another episode, and we should, instead of asking him questions, we should allow him just to tell us some stories. Abu Zaino says, I joined at the end, but not to worry, I'll catch up with the recording tomorrow. Really excited about the talk with Jim Fitzpatrick, a phenomenally talented artist. Good night, Anthony and all. Thank you for joining us. And yeah, I hope you see that, get to join that. I think Jim will provoke a very interesting conversation. Don't forget, please give us your questions. So if you see me sharing the link on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, comment beneath with your question. I want questions. I want your questions for Jim so that we have questions to ask him. Sheila says, it's easy to register. Yes, indeed it is. Yes. Christine Smith says, have you ever heard of Brigid being associated with spring cleaning? I think there's a natural association there because it is a time of year when you're sensing that spring is coming, when you're likely to sort of, as it were, clean out the dust of winter, and of course there's a battle that takes place between the Cailleach and Brigid at this time of the year for supremacy. The Cailleach still has some tricks up her sleeve in terms of returning us to winter weather. John Noonan says, really enjoyed Moncon McGann. Just told all at Dundalk writers about your wonderful Mythical Ireland. Brilliant stuff, John. Thanks very much. I have a special place in my heart for Dundalk. And if there are enough of you still watching, I'll tell you exactly why. And I said it on the Brigid talk last night to the Vancouverians. I'm not sure if that's a thing. But my grandmother, her name was Brigid, and she lived at Bridge Street in Dundalk. And her house is exactly on the alignment between so Brigid's Well at Faughart and the Curragh, along that alignment that has been called the Brigid's Way, discovered by myself and Richard Moore. And it's a funny thing that she worked for her father, who was a cobbler. And it has been pointed out that, there was an ancient pilgrim route between Faughart and Kildare, where annually the people of Dundalk and surrounding areas went on pilgrimage to the site of the monastery in Kildare. And it has often been said that, well, what better service would you require for a pilgrimage than a cobbler who repairs shoes for those who are going to walk? And I always like to mention that my granny has origins also in Kildare, which is very interesting. Okay, I don't see any more questions, so we are going to close out at an hour and a half, although we did spend 20 minutes saying hello to people, which is fine. Kelly Nikiali wants to thank me for including Mary Condren's work today. She is fabulous, and as I say, really looking forward to hopefully inviting her, and hopefully she will she will agree to come on the conversation show. Although at the time during ritual, I hailed her as Lady of the Triple Flame. I managed to set the altar cloth on fire 3 times, says Rowan Grove. I missed the Zoom yesterday, says Roberta. That is the Vancouver one. They did record it and they are making it available on their YouTube page, but that's not going to be till next week. So when they do, I'll share it on the Facebook pages. No problem. Okay. Thanks, everyone. All that remains for me to do is thank you all and say goodnight. Don't forget that we don't have any regular episodes planned between now and Tuesday. So Tuesday's the next event, but you must register for that. That Jim Fitzpatrick talk will not be live streamed on either Facebook or YouTube the way we do the normal episodes. It is Zoom only. And the reason we do it that way is that, the other person is visible to everybody. And by the way, it was lovely at the end where everybody said hello and goodbye, as it were. And we had a few live questions from the audience for both Eddie Lennon and indeed for Moncon McGann. Epic. Great. Good. Okay. So we'll see you next Tuesday. And don't forget, just to keep an eye on the page, I'm aware of the fact that Facebook has a thing about suppressing content. So I may post things on the Facebook page on Mythical Ireland on Facebook, and you mightn't see them. That's just because Facebook's not feeding them to you. So just make sure that you go to the Facebook page every day, regularly, or as regularly as you can, and have a look, because you may be missing stuff. In the meantime, all that remains for me to say finally is Ichawa, good night. Although if you're in Australia, Majin Ma, or in the afternoon in the States, Kolo Sov, sound sleep, don't go to sleep. If you're driving, Slán go fóill, bye for now. And of course, most importantly, Tog go bogey, take it easy. And we'll see you on Tuesday for Live Irish Myths in Conversation with Jim Fitzpatrick. That's 9 p.m. Irish time. That's 3 p.m. Sorry, that's, get it right, Anthony. That's 4 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. New York, and that is 1 p.m. if you're in Seattle or San Francisco, 1 p.m. Pacific. See you all then. Take it easy. Thanks a million. This has been Live Irish Myths, and it's always my great pleasure to have you in the library. Good night.